En esta semana no hay.
The new trade system.
En esta semana no hay.
No, ¿qué es lo que estás viendo? Claro que sí. Mira, mira, te la voy a enseñar, te la presento. Voilà. ¿Ya lo ves?
No, profe, ¿por qué?
Ok, let's begin. No, seriously, este tema es bien facilito y por eso que lo dije, en un solo día se da este tema. Muy sencillito. El nuevo sistema de intercambio o negociación entre qué? Entre Europa. Acuérdense que en aquel momento quedamos en que Europa quería buscar nuevas emociones, descubrir nuevas cosas y entonces se lanzó a la mar y que Cristóbal Colón y con los que debían detrás descubrieron el nuevo mundo. Este es el viejo mundo acá en Europa y el nuevo mundo en América. Ellos pensaban que habían llegado a la India. Y como ustedes ven, y esta figura la tienen ustedes ahí en su libro, there was a trade between these two continents, okay? So Europe sent to the new world, sent all these products, horses, grapes, onions, peaches, pigs, rice, sugar cane, and then in return they brought back to Europe all these fruits and vegetables: turkey, tomatoes, tobacco, sweet potatoes. The potatoes are from Peru. This is something very native from Peru, and then from Peru they send it to Europe. But the potato is basically from Peru. Okay, so let's begin the class, guys. This is very easy. So the exchanging plants, animals, and ideas. The exchange of plant, animals, and ideas between the new world, the old world, and the old world is known as the Columbian Exchange. Este proceso se llamó the Columbian Exchange. Y tenemos un video ahora para esto, explicárselo más a fondo. Okay. Europe also brought technologies such as guns. No sabían lo que eran armas. Los indios acá en América, los nativos de América. And also steel to the new world. Okay. The introduction of sheep, trajeron ovejas y que sugar cane, caña de azúcar. Created a new industry. Y en aquel entonces comenzaron lo que son las plantaciones de azúcar, las plantaciones de algodón en Estados Unidos, las plantaciones de plátano y otro tipo de productos. Colonialists also began to grow sugar cane. Si echamos atrás el tiempo, Cuba era una potencia en cuanto al cultivo de la caña. Trinidad y Tobago, que es otra isla, también era una potencia. Así otras islas. ¿Por qué? Porque los trajeron y los formaron los europeos cuando vinieron a colonizar. Colonialists also began to grow sugarcane on plantations or large farms. ¿Y quiénes trabajan ahí? Los negros. O los esclavos negros de África, que los trajeron también. En aquella época eso era un negocio, traer esclavos de África. Plantations and mines in America made money for Portugal and Spain. Así que ellos se hicieron una potencia, se fueron bien ricos los españoles y los portugueses debido a eso, al descubrimiento de América. A new economic system called mercantilism. Aquí aparece el mercantilismo. European countries saw their colony as a way to get rich. The new view of colony was part of the economic system called mercantilism. The new trade patterns. Mercantilism created new trading patterns around the world. In the 1600 and 1700, trade routes connect Europe, Africa, Asia, and America. And this trade was called the Triangle Trade. También tengo otro video ahí que lo vamos a ver más. Aquí está el Triangle Trade. ¿Qué es lo que se traía de África? Se traían ¿qué? Los esclavos a que trabajar acá en las plantaciones. Y de aquí se enviaban ¿a dónde? A Estados Unidos a trabajar en las plantaciones de algodón. ¿Qué se conseguía de esta área? Se enviaba para atrás, dice que el ron, porque se producía mucho ron de caña. Melaza, sugar melaza y otros productos que se hacía todo un intercambio. Una especie de un triángulo, bueno, ese es el triangle trade. Okay, the Atlantic slave trade was a major part of the trade network. The Portuguese, Dutch, and English all were active on slave trade. Esto era lo que se encargaban del intercambio de los esclavos, los portugueses, los holandeses y los ingleses. Were active in the slave trade. Slavery had had been practiced in many places, including Africa, long before Europeans came. Between late 1500s and early 1800s, Europeans shipped millones de esclavos africanos a las colonias en el Nuevo Mundo. Most of these people were sent to South America and the Caribbean. Y acuérdense que en la construcción del canal vinieron muchas personas del Caribe, por supuesto eran africanos, ya se habían convertido en nativos de esa área. Por eso que aquí en Panamá hay muchos en la construcción del canal. Vinieron muchos del Caribe. Main ideas, the power in Europe shift as a result of new trade routes, banking, and increased manufacturing. Ya se procesaban los productos y se hacía manufactura. Se procesaban todos los productos y se sacaba otro nuevo producto. Power shift in Europe. El poder cambió en Europa. Mercantilism was successful in Spain and Portugal, both in which had many wealthy colonies. But while they relied on their colonies for wealth, the northern European countries of England and Netherlands developed new trade routes and banking industry. Ahí que comenzó entonces la industria del banco. Como tenían tantas riquezas, no sabían a dónde ubicarlas, ponerlas, entonces los bancos se encargaban de poner a funcionar y a trabajar esas riquezas como depositario y para hacer la seguridad del depósito de sus monedas. Realizing this, the Dutch sent up a bank. ¿Quién es lo que se encargan? Eran los judíos. The Jews were partly responsible for the growth of banking in Netherlands. Eran los responsables. Then, the Jews were so successful that English rulers invited them to England to help improve business there as well. Así que también se fueron los judíos a trabajar en Inglaterra. Main idea, the market economy changed business in Europe. Aquí aparece en el mercado, economía de mercado, market economies. Trade routes led to increase the exchange between Europe and Africa, Asia, and America. The resulting economic growth, the new wealth change between business in Europe, A new social group, the middle class, aparecieron las clases sociales, la clase media, la clase alta, y la clase baja, the lower class, okay? Now, there were several reasons for the increase of demand and manufactured goods. La primera, the first, European population was growing, especially in the cities. More people meant a need for more goods. Estaba creciendo, necesitaban más productos. Second, farmers were growing food at lower cost. With lower expenses, people had more money to spend on manufactured goods. And the third reason for increased demand was the addition of colonies, which had to get their manufactured goods from Europe. Okay, entrepreneurs wanted to create new businesses to increase the supply or amount of goods offered to meet demands. Los entrepreneurs, que son los emprendedores. This new way of doing business can be considered the beginning of a new economic system called capitalism. Aquí comienza el capitalismo. Competition among these businesses affects how much goods cost. Population growth of empire and cities naturally increase the size of market as well. Competition among different businesses is more successful in a market economy. As a result, the business help meet the needs of individuals by supplying goods and services. Okay, so this is the last slides. As I said, I summarized this chapter, very easy chapter. That's why I said in one class, I can teach you this class. So now I'm gonna show you a couple of videos in order to conclude this chapter. Let's talk. The first one talks about definition of mercantilism. And the last one is gonna be the other one, the Columbian Exchange.
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find really good, perfect words that make your writing sharp, or explicit, or excellent, or distinctive.
Here it is. Mercantilism. Definition.
In this History Illustrated video, we're going to take a look at the word mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is an economic system. And if you don't remember what economic means, it is basically money. So it's a system in which somebody's going to make money. So the economic system is called mercantilism. Now, the countries that are going to primarily use mercantilism are these here, the ones that are in Europe. So the European countries, the big three is another word we may have used, the big three being Spain here, France here, and England here, are going to use this idea called mercantilism to gain power. So the idea is to gain power. They want to get a lot of power. And the way they were going to do it was to travel across the world and start colonies in random places. The best places that have very good raw materials, the things they could use to make money. So raw materials could then be sent over to England, Spain, or France. They could collect it all, turn them into manufactured goods. So they can turn them into manufactured goods, and then they can send them back out and to sell them. So they're going to sell everything. The idea behind mercantilism is to control colonies. So they are going to control them, and they're going to force them to send all their stuff to these big three countries. They are not allowed to trade between each other at all. So they are not allowed to have any kind of business between each other. They have to do business with what you would call the mother country. The mother countries would be the big three over here. So Spain, France, and England. So mercantilism's main goal is to give power to the mother country. So mercantilism, power to the mother country by controlling colonies and forcing them to trade with the mother country.
Okay, this was the meaning of definition of the I didn't like it, but anyway. And let's watch this one, the Columbian Exchange.
Welcome to Homework Help. Whether you're studying for the AP US History exam or any other exam that your teacher is inflicting upon you, we've got you covered. Today, we are discussing the Columbian Exchange. So, what is the Columbian Exchange? The Columbian Exchange refers to the exchange of ideas, technologies, food, disease, and peoples that occurred between Europe and the Americas following the discovery of the New World by Christopher Columbus in 1492. When one civilization interacts with another, both cultures always experience some level of change. This is called cultural diffusion. If the differences between the two cultures are extreme, as was the case between the Europeans and the Native American civilizations during the Columbian Exchange, then the changes that follow will be equally extreme. So, in short, the Columbian Exchange resulted in a lot of change for all involved, and these changes had both positive and negative effects for the Native Americans, the cultures of sub-Saharan Africa, and Europeans. When two cultures interact for the first time, cultural diffusion is felt most by the culture with the least developed collective knowledge base, or in this case, the Native American civilizations. They experienced far greater social and economic changes than the Europeans. Animals were an important part of the Columbian Exchange. Did you know that horses didn't exist in the Americas prior to European exploration? Europeans introduced horses, pigs, sheep, goats, and chickens to the Americas. Some continued to be domesticated while others, such as wild pigs, escaped and roamed wild in the New World, often destroying agricultural crops. The Plains Indians quickly embraced the horse for domesticated use and used them to hunt buffalo herds more easily, especially when they later acquired firearms from the Europeans. Europeans brought plants to the New World as well. These included sugar, bananas, wheat, and coffee, all of which later became major sources of American trade goods. As the slave trade increased contact between Africa and the Americas, Africans introduced rice and yams to the Americas. In return, the Europeans and Africans gained access to new crops, including corn, potatoes, cocoa, tomatoes, squash, pumpkins, and turkeys. Europeans also discovered cane sugar growing in the tropics, which had a dramatic impact upon sweetening the European diet. Interestingly, potatoes later became a main food source for many European regions, including Ireland and Eastern Europe. If you've never heard of the Irish potato famine of the 1840s, you should go check it out. The exchange of food was extremely important. Access to new food significantly changed diets of both peoples and altered the crops that were grown in both the Old World and the New World, which ultimately contributed to a population explosion in Europe by year 1800. The Columbian Exchange is also notorious for expanding African slavery into the Americas through a new transatlantic slave trade, resulting in the forced migration of 11 million Africans over the course of 350 years. The most notorious and unintended exchange between Europeans and the Americas were the microbes. European diseases arrived with little mercy. As native immune systems were unable to defend against European disease such as smallpox, measles, and chickenpox, these diseases spread rapidly, resulting in unintended decimation of millions. The international slave trade of Africans also introduced new diseases, such as yellow fever and strains of malaria, to the New World. Smallpox was by far the biggest culprit, as up to 95% of some Native American populations were wiped out from this single disease. It devastated Native American populations and cultures. In addition to physical goods, disease, and people, the Columbian Exchange also resulted in the widespread growth of Christianity. In what is now modern South America, Catholicism was spread through the conversion efforts of Spanish explorers and conquistadors, while North America saw the spread of Christianity through the relocation of European Protestants fleeing religious persecution. Clearly, European countries experienced more immediate benefits from the Columbian Exchange. They developed more sophisticated joint stock companies and banking institutions as a result of the newly developed transatlantic trade. Also, the need to manage colonies across oceans resulted in the development of more sophisticated political bureaucracies. The knowledge exchanged between all parties of the Columbian Exchange eventually led to more complex social, political, and economic systems for all. Some view this period as one solely of invasion, while others see it merely as a time of widespread economic and political growth. In reality, it is not one or the other, but rather a complex time period that sent the world into a new age.
Okay, guys, that's it. With this video, we conclude this chapter about the new trade systems. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Remember, you need to complete vocabulary and assessment that belongs to this chapter, guys. Question. No question. If we don't have any question, then that's it.